I just found out my fiance is a liar, but I'm supposed to marry her in 2 weeks, and this is part 3. It gets crazier, but we got a little TLDR to catch everyone up to speed for part 1 and 2. A man discovers his fiancée Sarah has been helping her sister Evelyn cover up a 6-month affair with Evelyn's super spicy hot coworker. He finds evidence on Sarah's phone and decides to cancel their wedding, which is just 2 weeks away. He helps Evelyn's husband Marty gather proof, including tracking Evelyn to a bar and catching her cheating partner visiting her home. When the man confronts Sarah and calls off the wedding, she breaks down, pleading for another chance. Meanwhile, Evelyn attacks him in rage, leading to her arrest. Tensions escalate further only when Sarah accuses him of spicy texting and only Pan's model, talking chefs, but it turns out his brother was using his computer for this during a visit. Sarah admits to being a people pleaser due to childhood bullying by Evelyn, but the man realizes he doesn't truly know her after 6 years together. Despite her pleas, the wedding remains canceled, and their future as a couple is uncertain as he grapples with her betrayal and the fallout from their relationship. This update has taken longer to get around to than I originally intended, and a lot of things happened in the last couple of days that have kept me pretty busy. So now we're getting into the actual thing.
Let's go.
You ready?
Let's do it.
And it really wasn't until today when I had some free time after lunch that I could sit down and get this out. I'll try to get through as much as I can. Before that, however, I just want to mention a couple things in response to comments from the last post, and I'll try to be brief. By the way, this comes from OneTop3934 on the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, firstly, I don't know much of what's going on with Marty and his divorce, other than, to my knowledge, he's still divorcing her. Let's go.
Boom.
Obviously, no papers or anything, but the intention is clear. In addition to that, I'm not really in the position to be advocating for any sort of course of action that Marty should take, or offering him legal advice, or assisting him in doing anything to the other man, or tracking down the other man's wife, etc. Marty is a grown man, but he could do whatever he wants with this situation, and my position as his friend is just to support him and offer advice if he asks for it, but not legal advice.
I like it. You've done, step back.
Step back.
You've done what you did. Step back.
Secondly, this isn't some sort of guerrilla marketing for an OnlyPans girl.
Dude, I freaking called it, brother. Come on, baby.
If it was, I should have done it on the first post, which hit the front page of Reddit and was seen by over 3 million people.
Whoa.
Also, given that this post got so popular on Reddit, it's not really a surprise that Bimbo Wife Mandy, another Redditor, happened to be following the story and saw her name.
Whoa.
It could have easily been any other of the hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of girls who use Reddit to post their pictures. And as a brief aside, speaking of Mandy, I have indeed talked to her. She was actually quite helpful. Oh, so you have talked to her, OP.
What?
I thought you didn't talk to her.
And she reached out for a collab.
Yeah. She was actually quite helpful in confirming something for me, and as a person, she seems quite nice.
Stop. It's a trap.
But guys,
Wait,
there is
were you
no
really talking to
romance
her?
plans. What?
Okay, sorry. Were you really talking to her?
Yes, but I saw the story.
Yeah.
Like,
This was after. This was not like before.
He was talking to her for free.
Yeah.
Got it.
So there you go.
Mandy is married, evidently quite happily so, and for almost 2 decades. So you can have OnlyPans and a marriage.
Never said that wasn't true.
Riley.
Never said it wasn't true.
Yeah, get wrecked. I think the handle Bimbo Wife Mandy should have given that away. Oh, yeah, duh. And frankly, while her husband must be cool with it, she's way too much for a mere insurance guy like me to handle. Seriously. So with that all out of the way, on to the update. He's like, if I could handle it, I would be all up into that. But
I can't.
Trust me, I can't. I'd get suffocated.
His back would break.
His back would break, yeah.
With those
Could not.
backbreakers.
I'd motor my last boat.
Yep. So with that all the way, on to the update. Last I wrote in, I ended up with assuming that my brother had used my office computer to chat with Mandy, but it was too late his time for me to contact him. I am one of those guys that once a problem is put in front of him, I must be actively working on trying to solve it. This is great for my career choice, but in situations like this, all I was doing was driving myself insane. So I decided to take a deep breath, leave everything until later, and carry on with what I needed to do. First thing up was attempting to contact every person from my side that I had invited to the wedding because they spent all this money on a wedding that he's now canceling because he found out that his wife-to-be was helping a cheater cheat.
That's a lot.
Yeah, accomplice to the crime. Every person from my side that I invited to the wedding that I had not yet informed about its cancellation, I'm going to let know. As you may recall, I had already informed my parents and had them contact my relatives on the day I made up my mind, but only myself and Sarah have the complete guest list. So I needed to do the rest myself. Out of respect for my friends, I decided to call instead of text. But this might have been a bad idea since every phone call typically resulted in a rather lengthy explanation of why I was canceling the wedding. It's going to be hard to...
Yeah, you can't just be like, oh, yeah, the whole story.
Yeah. I think what you do is you text everyone. It's like, hey, if you want to talk more about it, like, happy to go over a call. I know I could have given some other excuse, but I wanted people to know that I wasn't being frivolous or just experiencing something inane like cold feet. It was important not just for my own reputation, but I think in order to show respect to the people who had agreed to come on that day to support myself and Sarah as a couple. Because of this, it wasn't until late into the evening when I finally managed to contact everyone, which meant it was now morning time in Australia. I knew what I needed to do, but I wanted to make sure that my ducks were all in a row. He's going to confront his brother about the OnlyFans spicy texting to Mandy with the mams.
Dude, take those ducks and replace that U with an I.
Dicks.
You did it.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
You told me to.
Congratulations.
I'm just following commands.
Oh, baby.
Like a good boy.
Oh, God.
I knew what I needed to do, but I wanted to make sure that my ducks were all in a row. So I took a breather and made a sandwich in the kitchen. I noticed that Sarah wasn't home. I had no idea when she left and sat down to eat and think about what to do with my brother's situation. Let's call my brother Carl for the sake of shortness here. Now, Carl and I have always been pretty close, despite him being 13 years older than me. He was this sort of quasi-parental figure in my life because by the time I became capable of having long-term memories, he was already well on his way to becoming an adult. He was always generous with his time, played with his little brother when other teenagers would probably have avoided such an activity like the plague, and generally seemed mature and wise to me growing up. Suffice to say, I respected him greatly.
Interesting.
The idea that he had been spicy texting with a girl who wasn't his wife in my house was something that I was still coming to grips with, and I needed to decide what to do. Really quick, y'all, how do we feel about the messaging an OnlyFans person? Is that like, because like I feel like that's not quite like cheating, but it's like a step above watching a video and a step below like flirting with your coworker.
Totally. I think we had, was it you, me, and Sophia that had a story like this, Riley?
Maybe.
Yeah, where it was
Where
like
we
the old dad was literally doing what he was doing, or maybe you were there too. But yeah, I feel like we kind of established it basically is kind of this like different class. Like I think we said like cheating light or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, yeah, it is like, but it's not the emotional connection and other things of like the possibility of them like leaving them for you
is very low.
It's very low. Yeah,
I feel like it feels closer to corn in my in my opinion. If I'm thinking about like a part, it's definitely like worse than that, and I would be like, I don't know how that makes me feel.
Yeah.
But like it doesn't feel quite as bad. Like it's definitely like an order of magnitude less bad than actually messaging someone that they know.
The only thing, messaging someone on OnlyFans is the same as like sliding in someone's DMs. And let's say whatever you said on OnlyFans messages, you said the exact same thing on an Instagram message to another girl.
I think it's different because OnlyFans, you're paying for that messaging. And I believe. I've never used these services.
It is financially transaction.
I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like a per message or something, or if it's like a sub. Anyway, you're paying for it, but with like sliding into the DMs, there's like an expectation that you potentially could meet up with them, which is different. I think once there's the expectation that you could meet up or develop like a two-way emotional connection, I think that's with.
Yeah, I guess it's like going to a strip club in a way.
Yeah, I feel.
And some people view that as okay, but
I think it's all right. Here we go. Corn.
Yeah.
Spicy texting OnlyPans model, strip club, spicy texting someone you actually know and could meet up with. So like, or I guess
that's the degrees.
But this is worse. This is not that bad.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Which one was first? It was
go from the bottom up.
All right. So corn is like the least worst.
Yep.
And then it goes spicy texting an OnlyPans model.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes going to a strip club. Then it goes spicy like sliding into someone's DMs on Instagram. Then it goes flirting with your coworker on text. And then it goes meeting up with like
coworker.
Honestly, I think it's also that was Tempest' story. Tempest is in the chat right now.
No way.
Yeah. But I think it's kind of hard to because Harriet's a Spaghetti's point earlier. Harriet was like, "Oh, that is cheating," and in the context of two people defining that in a relationship, if someone's like, "That is cheating to me," that's cheating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
if you've established that boundary,
I feel like it is. Maybe let's say that there's a spectrum, and it's in between corn and. All the way up to full cheating.
If this lived within my relationship with my partner, this is cheating.
Which is what I'm sure many people share that same.
For me, I don't think I would consider it cheating, but I would be like, I would get the ick. I'm like, you're paying to message someone? Like, just talk to ChatGPT or something. like.
Well, I did try to talk dirty to ChatGPT, and it can only go too far.
That's true. But you can download
I know because Riley did
LLM.
it in my account.
Yeah, but you can download like Llama or something. I'm just more mad. It's another LLM. I'm just mad that like you're wasting money when you could get this stuff for free.
You're like the that could have been invested.
That could have been invested.
Where's the ROI?
You put that into an index fund. You wait 40 years, triples.
Retired.
Or more than that.
You're retired.
Right? You're retired.
You're retired. Done.
Anyway,
Done.
What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. But we got some more. So I need to decide what to do. Talking to him about it was obvious, but at this point, given how much of a shambles my relationship with Sarah was, I didn't know if I cared about having him confess just for the sake of clearing my name. Was there anything to salvage anyway? I needed to, for my own sake of propriety, at least yell at him about this and convince him to stop. However, I wasn't sure if I was going to rat him out or not to my sister-in-law. Let's call her Karen. All right, Carl and Karen. It is, guys. Great names. It all depended on what he told me and if I believed him or not. I finished my meal and logged into Facebook and video called Carl. Now, Carl works mostly from home as a remote office worker since his field is related to IT, and he's almost always available during the day, and today was no exception. It didn't even ring more than once or twice before he answered. We greeted each other, exchanged some pleasantries, and then I sort of just dove into it and asked him if he had been using my computer to spicy sleep chat women on the internet when he was visiting me. Carl's face furrows.
Uh-oh.
And he leaned over out of frame of the camera. He was obviously closing his office door. So not okay in the relationship, probably.
And you have to say it in an Australian accent.
I can't. Oh, okay.
Dude, I believe in you. I have so much faith in you.
I'm so bad at Australian accents, even though I have an Australian mother.
And passports.
Yeah. And I'm literally Australian. I had a thick Australian accent when I came back from Australia in like 3rd grade, and all the girls were like, ooh, and then I lost it. And then we were like, ugh.
That's tough.
I know, dude. I would have been 2 points hotter with an Australian accent. But he was obviously closing his office door and says, yeah, dude, why?
Nice. You crushed it. I said I had so much faith in you.
He said to me, I swore under my breath and explained to Carl how Sarah had thought that his flirting was me since he used my computer. I explained that I wasn't happy to take the hit from him, and I asked him point blank if Karen knew about this or not. He waffled for a few seconds, stumbling over his words. And then he was like, and looked a bit sheepish and said that no. Karen did not know. And he'd prefer if it was kept that way. He went on to explain that their relationship had been pretty rough since their youngest was born 4 years ago.
What? I thought kids helped relationships.
I know, dude. If you're in a tough spot, pump out a baby. Instant fix. Babies are like Band-Aids. That's why they both begin with B. That's what I heard. That's what I heard. You can't spell Band-Aid without baby.
That's true.
It's impossible.
The first two letters of baby.
Yep. Mainly in the bedroom department. Carl had always been a pretty private person, especially when it came to intimate details, or at least he had always been that way when talking to his much younger baby brother. However, this time he let it all lay out. Things had been bad. He'd been tired of getting rejected. Karen was always tired no matter what he did or how much he helped around the house. Eventually, this led to problems on his side, some sort of performance anxiety on a few occasions where Karen would actually feel up for some bedroom fun, and things got worse from there. Basically said, there ain't no amount of socks picked up, laundry folded, dishes washed, or time spent minding the children that would get me laid. It was just not happening. So I started to spend time in my office at night working.
Brother. No.
He even did the finger quotes when saying this.
I mean, he was working in a way.
Yeah.
He was working something.
Shucking that corn.
Shucking the corn, brother.
I don't know, man. I don't know why you just go look up some washing machine people getting stuck like every normal person. And
like the normal
people, and then you're fine. You're in the clear.
You're good to go.
Unless that is.
But he wanted to feel something. He's not just
feel the churn of the washing machine as you watch.
The next level, it's just the washing machine.
Yeah,
dude. You put that on spin cycle.
You watch a couple of those videos, then you can just turn off the computer. You have it in your mind. Yeah, and then you put it on the spin cycle. You sit on top of it, get a little vibration.
But he's not a monster. He wants to feel something with her. He wants to feel a connection.
Feel a connection with your washing machine.
You want a connection? Speed mode.
Well, he even did the finger quote saying this. Evidently, his working at night turned into a pretty hardcore addiction to OnlyPans sites, which, given the relative privacy he had in his office for legitimate work, spiraled out of control pretty quickly. I asked him if he was still doing it, and he swore up and down he wasn't. I thought I believed him when he said it. He seemed to be sincere. But I just had a nagging feeling in the back of my skull that something was off. Maybe it was because of all the deceit I had encountered recently, but I was doubting my own brother, who has really been a stand-up guy to me our entire lives together. I really hated being in this situation. Now the problem I faced was pretty complex here. First, if I wanted to clear my name, then I would have to get my brother to tell Sarah that it was him all along. However, if he did that, then there was no guarantee that Sarah wouldn't spitefully inform Karen. I personally thought it would be the best if Karen knew, but at the same time, I didn't know if I felt comfortable potentially dropping a nuke on my brother's marriage over something he not only said he stopped, but is in this sort of moral gray area. Also, Pinky Desayer says it's a former spicy worker. That is true. I made most of my money just talking.
Whoa.
Wow.
Real facts.
Real facts, dude. Real facts. People be lonely. I didn't have an answer right away as to what to do, but I did urge him to tell his wife about this and to get marriage counseling. He said that they actually had been going for the last 6 months, and while it was helpful, what had really helped him was getting a prescription for some generic banana boinging. I actually did a spit take at that, neatly spraying my computer screen with water. which I'm sure is what his brother was doing a lot.
Oh God,
spraying that computer screen.
Shout out to Hawk Tula.
He told me that they had been trying to make sure they have intimate time at least a couple of times a week, and that little blue pill had cured him of his performance anxiety to the point where now they were both looking forward to spending time together after the kids went to bed.
Okay.
Let's go.
This is good.
This is a win.
This is good. This is better. Uh-oh.
Win.
Flag on the play. A good flag.
That jacket show you.
Thanks, dog.
Yeah, right.
It does feel me. The general gist of this was something along the lines of, "Hey, this is actually going in the right direction right now. Please don't screw this up for us, eh?"
Hey.
Wait, pause.
That was great.
Should OP screw this up?
I feel
Should
like
he reveal the truth?
So I feel like brother Carl should tell his wife for sure.
Yes,
Agreed.
Sarah.
For
Yes.
sure.
Agreed. But that's not the question. We all agree that here.
Yeah.
Brother Carl should come clean about the pans he's been cooking on.
Yeah.
But
I see what you're doing.
should OP do something? Should OP tell his brother's wife?
Because he's also, this is what Sarah did for her sister too, if you think about it in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's karmic. It's
Yeah.
karmic. You have an option to tell the truth. Although this is not as bad as what Sarah and Evelyn did.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something he helps come clean on?
I think so, and I think he does our original playbook all the way back from the first episode on this, which was go to them and be like, "Look, you really should tell Karen, your wife, like, yeah, you're reaching this new stage, but the foundation of a relationship is honesty and working through these things. And please tell her if you don't do it, I'm gonna kind of have to force to be able to tell him, right?"
Yeah, I guess this feels
Because out of safety. Because
Safety?
because you don't know how Karen will react to it. He's not helping his brother talk to Mandy. Oh God, he can introduce him now. That's so bad. But anyways, yeah, because we don't know how Karen feels about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if it's truly not that big of a deal, then it's not that big of a deal. But if it is a big deal, she would want to know about it. The same way someone's like, oh, if someone's been hooking up with someone for 6 months, they would want to know, right?
Yeah, no, it is. I think you're right. I think you should. It should come from Carl, but if it doesn't, I think you should probably tell because, especially if you have any kind of relationship with the wife too, which you do because it's your brother's.
Yeah,
your brother's
sister-in-law.
Yeah. You should tell.
I think so.
You should tell.
I think so.
I really, really don't want to be in this position, not just for the sake of Carl and Karen, but for my 2 nieces as well. And if what Carl was telling me was the truth, I could be tossing a firebomb into a relationship that was starting to mend. It was unpredictable what would happen. So yeah, it may disappoint some people, but at the time, I felt the best option was to wait and see. I was, after all, going to meet him in a couple of weeks in the flesh. And once I got him alone in a room and a few drinks in him, I was going to definitely get to the bottom of this. It seemed like the best course of action. I think you don't have to talk to the wife like immediately, but I think you should say like, hey, I really think you need to tell your wife. And like, if you don't, I feel like a duty to let her know.
And you know what? You could even give him in the first conversation, you could say, hey, tell your wife, and then follow up a bit later too. See if maybe he does it on his own, and then you don't even need to say that,
Exactly. Seemed like the best course of action. Anyway, that night I went to bed early. I didn't see Sarah until the next morning. She looked haggard and she had a distinct lack of sleep. I asked her where she'd been, mostly out of habit. After all, we had been together for almost 6 years. She told me she had gone down to the courthouse for Evelyn's arraignment to post bail. The courts here close at 1 p.m. on the weekends. which is why she disappeared so soon after I went into my office. And that afterward, she had driven her to her parents' house and spent the night there. She made a point of telling me how horrible it was to have to explain to her parents that I had called out the wedding. I asked her if her parents knew the reason why, and she barked, "Of course they do.
Of course."
I tried to remain calm, but by this point in this ordeal, I was losing it. I bit back at her. "Are you going to move back there so that they have both girls at home now?" It was childish and petty, but the fact that she bailed Evelyn out of jail annoyed me to no end. "You don't need to be a butt about this," she said, to which I said, "And you don't need to be Evelyn's effing underling." I don't know. I would bail my sister out no matter what. I don't think like bailing.
And yeah, break that down. Like bailing out.
It seems like.
Because remember why she got into jail, Evelyn?
Yeah, because she like attacked OP. But
yeah.
I mean, it's your family. You're gonna. I'm bailing Sophia out no matter what.
Yeah, it has to be a really, 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 really crazy crime.
Yeah,
to not want to.
Yeah. I mean that's just what you do.
Not like that. What she did
isn't excusable.
Isn't effed up, but it's like.
But I said you just bail out. You just bail people out. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. Because. You know, ultimately, as long as you're going to be the person that holds them accountable.
Yeah, I think you can still hold them accountable, bail them out, and it's like you're still like gonna face the law.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I could see Sarah visibly flinch when I said that to her. It obviously had struck a chord, and the corners of her eyes started to tear up, and I cooled my temper. We just sort of stood there, miles apart in the living room of our house, and didn't say anything for a good solid minute until Sarah decided to continue talking. Our parents are going to be here at 3. I actually face-palmed at this. I was about to go off on her for not consulting me on this, but decided that was just my own ego. After all, I did need to sit down with them and work out the details around the wedding and whatever remaining deposit we had, and I needed at least once face-to-face to explain to everyone why it wasn't happening. So fine, let's do this and get it out of the way. Man, dude, losing all that money for the wedding must be crazy.
But it's like, what would it look like if they, worked for all these years and then split? There's just like it's we've seen this case 1,000 times on the show. It's always better. It's like investing. They're like, what's the the best time to do it? Yesterday. What's the second best time? Today.
Yeah.
Like you are splitting up now, and that will avoid further, as far as just financial, even further like costs and stuff in the future.
Yeah.
And they're not married yet.
Yeah.
They would have to pay for the divorce.
Dude, really quick. One of my friends, she had a friend that got married right after med school. Literally the first week of like clinicals or something, her now husband was flirting with this girl, confessed, and now they're like in 700. Like they broke up, and now they're in $700,000 of debt from the wedding.
Wait! One more time. What?
$700,000
for doing what? For what?
I don't know. $700,000. Is that not crazy? They're also going to be they're like a doctor and a surgeon and stuff, so I guess they're going to make money. But still.
But I mean,
you're going to go into debt for a wedding?
You make a lot of money. Yeah. That's that. Wow. I mean, bro, people.
It was either
crazy.
$700,000 in debt or they spent $700,000. Regardless, crazy.
Yeah,
I could understand spending that much money on a wedding and be like, oh, I really got to, I hope I can make it work. But, sunk cost fallacy, as my cat's name is Karen says.
Okay, so canceling a wedding costs somewhere between $10,000 to $30,000, and then getting a divorce costs anywhere between $15,000 to $30,000 plus.
Well, it depends on the marriage and the wedding, right?
Yeah.
So it's like
I said average income, average lifestyle.
average. Okay, right. Yeah, for the average person, right? Yeah. Canceling the wedding is cheaper than the divorce on average, basically. You're saying,
yeah.
But Fine, let's do this and get it out of the way. I try to make myself busy, but there isn't much you can do on a Sunday except waste time, and time wasting isn't very enjoyable when you know you are heading into the meat grinder in just a few hours. Still, 3 p.m. came, and so did our parents. We all sat down at the large kitchen table that Sarah had bought just a month after we closed on the house. It was secondhand from Facebook Marketplace, but she loved it because it was solid oak with a beautiful finish and capable of seating 8. And just as heavy as it sounds.
Ooh, that is heavy.
She always wanted to have big dinner parties with our family over, just not like this. The next 3 hours were grueling. No one was happy, nor should they be, I guess. The best support I could get came unsurprisingly from my own parents, but even that was tempered, essentially along the lines of, well, it's his decision to make, which more or less means, yeah, we think this is crazy too, but we're still backing him. Honestly, that was fine for me. I didn't need my parents to get the stigma by association of canceling the wedding. I was fine with owning that. Eventually, we worked out a decent deal in regards to the wedding. We would try to get back whatever money we could, split it back however it was contributed. Some things like the honeymoon were all paid by me, or the flowers were all paid by Sarah's parents, and then we would eat whatever losses there were communally.
Okay.
However, when it came to the subject of the house, Sarah vehemently objected to my idea of paying back her or her parents for the deposit. Basically, she didn't intend to move from the house that they both owned.
Whoa, that's gonna get sticky.
You guys might as well have gotten married and then had divorce.
Sticky.
Because this is what's happening.
Kinda.
Now, as you might imagine, Sarah and I hadn't really talked about us living together situation in too much detail. The fact that I even brought up settling the house equity seemed to shock her, because the implication here is that I expect her to move out of our home. She threw a fit, and I don't blame her. I should have settled our relationship status with her first before trying to negotiate a payment plan with her parents. It really tipped my hand to everyone about how I was feeling about our relationship. And while I think our parents expected it, or at least understood, Sarah was beside herself. She was absolutely not accepting of us breaking up over this, and she made it clear. I'm not moving out of my house, and we are not breaking up, she declared. Bold.
Interesting.
That is a move in a breakup.
I mean, we're not breaking up. Like, this ain't happening.
This recently happened to one of my friends. He was breaking up with his girlfriend, and she's like, no. And then they didn't break up.
Dang.
One would say it takes 2 to tango, but
yeah. She was like, no, we're not breaking up.
Also, poll, is OP a jerk or not? I'm curious to see what people think about that.
And that's pretty much how my Sunday night ended. After our parents left, Sarah and I tried to talk it out some more, but we kept running in circles around each other, and I had to curb my natural inclination to run her down until we got a resolution. Truthfully, I was pretty damn tired as well, and I just wanted to turn off my brain. Believe it or not, we ended up sitting on the couch and watching a movie together in silence until it was time to go to sleep. We left it there with a, well, we'll talk it more tomorrow, and retreated to our separate rooms.
Wow. When you have something in your Netflix queue you both really wanted to finish, but you're like, I want to divorce you.
On Monday, I woke up to a large handwritten letter slid under the door from Sarah. I took a brief look at the first few pages and decided I would deal with it later and went to work. When I left, Sarah was still in bed.
Sorry, I don't like that.
Yeah, I feel like you read it. Well, how long does it take to read a letter?
Yeah. He's putting his work in front of him and like keeping himself busy rather than like attacking the problem. He's avoiding it.
Although I do feel like he's just over the relationship at this point.
Yeah,
I feel like he's just done.
Yeah, although on the other side, has he clearly in clean English called
which
the quits?
which is whack too.
It's too confusing for her.
If your intention is to leave the relationship, say that.
Yes.
Don't bandy around the bush.
Yeah.
When I left, Sarah was still in bed. She must have been up late writing the letter. At the office, I scheduled some meetings and started calling venues and vendors that were on my list. The other ones were being handled by Sarah or her parents. It was a mixed bag of results. The catering people were adamant that I pay most of their fees under the pretense that they had ordered most of the food. I shot back at them over this, like, were they expecting me to eat a week-old steak? But my appeal fell on deaf ears. I tried talking to the woman who ran the catering business and explained what happened, but that seemed to only firm up her resolve to get as much money as possible out of me. Inversely, the DJ that I had hired for the entertainment was incredibly kind and gave us back almost all the money. It wasn't much, however. Things went on like this, and during the day, between making calls and doing work, I read Sarah's letter. Now, this was 20 pages, of written work. So I can understand, not reading it right there.
Or at least not finishing it, because he was on his way to work.
Yeah. So I'm just going to summarize. The gist of it was, ever since childhood, Sarah had been bullied by Evelyn. And in response, Sarah's way of dealing with this was to essentially go along with whatever Evelyn wants to hear. She went on to say that it had become sort of a general way of operating in her life, that she was just afraid to rock the boat, to cause a problem, or sometimes even to voice an opinion. I reflected on this because, truthfully, when I look back at our relationship with a more critical eye, I kind of think Sarah was a bit too perfect of a girlfriend. What I mean by this is she never disagreed with me, never picked her plans over mine, or even really advocated too strongly against anything I wanted to do. She went out of her way to make herself appear useful and all around acted more or less like a yes woman in our relationship. I mean, we had never even had so much as a minor disagreement in 6 years, let alone a full-blown argument until now. Sounds great from a relationship standpoint until, of course, it's not. I couldn't shake this feeling that Sarah had this deep-seated insecurity and need to make people happy. What they call people-pleasing behavior. When I start looking at it this way, a lot of things make sense, and I start to realize that despite being with Sarah for 6 years, I don't actually know her that well. It's like she's put up this image around her, which is really just a mirror, a reflection of whatever she thinks people want to see. And in the case of a relationship, she's more or less been acting in the role of perfect girlfriend, while never really letting me inside to see who she is as a person. But also, I feel like, yes, maybe someone can convince you that they are a reflection of you in, a couple month relationship.
Yeah. But
a 6-year relationship, I have to question OP's ability to actually be curious about who someone is and what they like. I feel like some of that blame should be on OP.
Yeah.
But maybe that's complete, out of left field. I would love to know your thoughts, guys. But
I think on top of that, I mean, you guys have been partners. John, if your partner is dealing with something in another relationship, she talks it through with you, right?
Yeah.
And then you guys kind of brainstorm about how to kind of attack it and go about it.
Yeah.
And give her the tools.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like you said, why was he not curious enough to figure that out earlier in the relationship?
I think, and again, obviously communicate. You never know what's going on in someone's head, but there comes a point within 6 years when you're probably something seems kind of off. And on her end too, while I understand it is really helpful to get this context of this extremely strong people-pleasing trait that she has, there is also simultaneously responsibility on her not to just if your friends jump off a bridge, are you going to do it too? So I feel like it's more of a balance thing of hey, here's the errors on all sides. You know what I mean? There's missteps on both sides.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know how he didn't see any of this.
It's kind of crazy.
Helena Bain says he is self-obsessed and was benefiting from her people pleasing. Yeah, we kind of brought that up a little bit.
Yeah,
earlier.
He literally said himself but I was she was pleasing me, so I wasn't throwing up any complaints, and that's
I feel that is a boring relationship. Yeah. I remember in one of my relationships, I'm you always agree with me. There's no way that's true because I say some messed up stuff.
Dude, he does, bro.
You're I know me.
Okay? There's no, you should not always agree with me.
Yeah.
I say things and disagree with myself.
Yeah, I literally have conversations in my head where I'm what the.
That is the most accurate thing I've ever heard. Yeah. And what was the response?
Dude, she was so mean after. No, okay.
She was oh no, you're right.
No, I think she became she was a bit more combative after that, but yeah, but then she was I feel then it was too combative.
Yeah, the overcorrection.
Oh wow, wow.
Well, but no, not.
She was too confrontational.
No, but she started yelling at me, and I'm that's not
What do you want, John? I meant Sam. What do you want?
I want someone who disagrees with me respectfully with like a good tone of voice. Like in the same way I would disagree with someone. I never like raise my voice at someone.
Like the one time Christian like got into it with you at dinner and you guys were arguing.
See, that's a perfect argument. That's a perfect argument.
Hey dude, I think I know who you should be with then.
Dude, what do you mean? We live together.
There's only
separate bedrooms though.
Yeah,
we get one.
Yeah, but I feel like I mean on trips we sleep in the same bed.
It's true. I've seen it.
That is true.
I can't even say that what I saw in those text messages is the real Sarah because it's almost certainly just another reflection. Oh, this time of Evelyn and all her warts and faults. This may sound weird, but it's like we are in this unequal relationship, whereas maybe she loves me for who I am and how I wear my thoughts on my face, in my heart, and my sleeve, but maybe I only love her for the mirror she is holding up to my face. I don't know if this sounds too metaphysical for you, then I'm right there as well. It's like a whisper of an idea, and I'm still trying to catch in my fingertips. All I know is in the last few days, I've probably learned more about Sarah than I have in the last 6 years. And the letter she wrote me was the first real view into her childhood that I had glimpsed. Bruh. That's crazy. In 6 years, you don't know anything about her childhood?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I guess very small points for... It seems like he's growing some self-awareness now.
At least he's growing. Yeah, that's true. That's true. At least he's growing self-awareness.
Zombie Love 25 says they need therapy. They 1,000% need therapy. Low-key, especially Sarah, because Sarah's
there's a lot in there.
Getting that voice up. Yeah.
Anyway, that night we talked more about this, about her childhood, about her behavior. The conclusion that we came to is that she needs help. She's a grown woman who is sadly stuck acting like a child, too scared to displease anyone, lest she face her sister's wrath, or her parents' disapproval, or the loss of love from the one she loves. This is no way to have a relationship, and I can say that I feel much more confident and assured that my decision to call off the wedding was the correct one. In fact, it could not be any more correct. That night after we talked, I went to bed with much less angst than I had in the last few days. So this basically brings me to our last update, and once again, it's a freaking novel. I won't wait 2 to 3 days to do another one. Otherwise, I will keep falling forever. For the people who have been wondering, the entire situation with my brother is more or less resolved. Okay, so this is an update like a couple days later.
Mm-hmm.
So the entire situation with my brother is more or less resolved, and I'll get to that tomorrow. But the situation with Sarah and I is still up in the air a bit. There's a semblance of a plan going forward, and I promise I'll get to it as soon as I can. But as you can imagine, there's a lot to write, and I can only do what I can. Thanks. And there are some relevant comments before that update. So Northeast Northwest says, I admire your forthrightness and your insight. It seems to be becoming clear that you really didn't know the woman you were going to marry. And after 6 years, that's a lot to process. I guess the moral is to never trust the perfect because nothing ever is. We're humans, not machines. As for your brother, there are people who are going to say that what you're doing is the exact same thing that Sarah did with her sister, but it isn't. You're waiting a few weeks, not 6 months. You're not egging him on or bashing your sister-in-law the way Sarah did with her brother-in-law. And for what it's worth, Sarah may have felt bullied by her sister, but she didn't have to double down or pile on the mocking of your brother-in-law. That was optional and pretty crappy. OP responds, yeah, I think people have focused too much on what Evelyn was doing and not what my primary cause for concern here was. Sarah actively helping conceal an affair by lying to Marty's face and the Mean Girls crap I saw going on back and forth between them. Also, there's a big difference between Evelyn and my brother Carl. Evelyn was actively carrying on a physical affair. Carl engaged in what I consider a much more morally gray area of cyber spicy sleeping with some random bimbo, no offense to the aforementioned self-proclaimed bimbo. And he stopped it and even had what I considered a better justification for doing it. Like I said in a comment from an earlier post, Evelyn's main argument was that she was bored and she thought Jake was hot. That's it. He was hot and readily available.
Dude, like a freaking little hot pocket.
Also, I do have proof that Carl stopped it thanks to Mandy.
Oh.
The information she was able to provide me with jives with what Carl told me, but I'll get into that in the next post because it's kind of complicated and I don't want to write another 10 paragraphs right now. Sheesh.
I was going to ask. That's good to know. So
yeah.
He literally confirmed. That's so funny.
Confirmed.
Wow.
Two Random Guys 6754 says, what you decide as a gray area might not be something your sister-in-law sees that way. And what should be telling that she doesn't see it as a gray area is the fact, even though they're in marriage counseling, he hasn't told her about the cyber spicy sleep. And as someone else said, you have evidence he stopped with Mandy, but what about others? Lastly, if you don't tell your sister-in-law, what did you tell Marty? You don't feel bad for dropping a nuke on his family? OP says, I think it's pretty obvious that I don't equate the behavior here to be the same. This is absolutely something that we can disagree with, but if I had read the text exchanges between Evelyn and Sarah and they had been different in many ways, I would have done totally different things. For instance, if Sarah had not been encouraging Evelyn and instead had been telling her to stop and not going along with the lying covering up, well, as I stated many times in previous comments and posts, I wouldn't have called off the wedding. It was specifically her actions here around how she handled the cheating situation, not just that she knew about it, which bothered me, specifically the lying to Marty. I do think these are like vastly different scenarios in terms of magnitude. They like contain elements of the same thing, but I think they are vastly different in terms of magnitude. Secondly, if the messages from Evelyn were along the lines of, wow, I really regret cheating on Marty and I hope we can work on our marriage, then to be perfectly blunt, I wouldn't have told Marty all about it. I know a lot of people will hate that, but my stance is that Marty is happy and their daughter is happy. And if Evelyn was remorseful and trying to be a good wife and mom, then I would have been fine letting her try. I don't know about that. I'm not saying that I would never have told Marty, because for certain, if I caught on that Evelyn was going back on her word, I would have felt like she had blown the chance. So then he would have said something, but only if she was like cheating twice. Which,
I also don't agree. Again, I think it goes back to like, you don't want to be over involved, but have them tell the other person.
Lastly, as I said at the top of this comment, I don't put the actions of Evelyn and Carl on the same level. I get that this is a personal value, but that's mine. I just don't see them the same. I don't even see what Carl did as emotional cheating, since it's not like he fell in love with Mandy. He just read some paid-for fiction that she typed through a chat message and beat it to it. If anything, I find knowing about this embarrassing for both of us. On top of that, he's expressed remorse, gave a semi-decent reason. Evelyn's reason was that Jake was hot, so and told me he had quit and that his relationship was getting better. I guess I'm not a hardliner. I like to apply nuance to everything, particularly my interpersonal relationships, and I felt that my actions in both cases were appropriate. I know this will anger both the people that think that I shouldn't have ratted out Evelyn and the people who instantly want to dump, nuke, destroy anyone that they think has cheated, even an iota. But guys, I am not you. That's all there is to it. By the way, you can listen to full stories of this podcast. You can just go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app and search OK Storytime. And you can listen to this while doing other things. You can just listen to our voices all the time.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you?
Live your life with us.
You could do it on the drive. You could do it gardening. You could do it cleaning. It'd be great.
Right.
There's another relevant comment, but let's discuss here really quick.
Yeah.
So what do you think about OP saying that messaging the OnlyPans person is not emotional cheating?
So here's the problem. He's defining what Karen should feel for Karen, right? Like he's saying like, oh, I don't believe it's that big of a deal, therefore it's not that big of a deal for Karen to know. Whereas I think it should be like, all right, everybody has like their own different lines. We talked about it, just a few minutes ago. And it's like, I feel like Karen should know so she can decide to do with the information what she will. Maybe she doesn't really care and feels the same way as OP, but maybe she doesn't. And I feel like OP is like the same way how he's like, oh, I don't want to get involved and whatnot. Well, actually, he is getting involved, in my opinion, by making that decision for her and withholding that information.
Where do you think that line is? So let's use like maybe a worse, like or a little diluted example. Like let's say you're with your brother and they say, and like they call their wife, like a mean name. They call her a witch or something, and you don't know if she would be okay with that. Like, do you go say something?
I think
like when does it become a problem? You know,
I think it's a good question. When it's closer and closer and more evident and clear that it could potentially disrupt and end the relationship. So now where we are saying, okay, this is a more gray area, but it's way closer to the line of potentially Karen wanting to end a relationship than him calling her a witch one time in a conversation, right? So I feel like the closer, and that is a spectrum at the end of the day. Like, again, some people
would
probably
be okay with it.
And some people, like if someone called you a witch one time behind your back, they might end. You know, everyone has like a different line.
I would actually feel like I would kind of want to know if my partner was calling me. Like that would actually like if that was if someone was talking about me like in that like that, I would probably be like, I don't know if that's a relationship I want to be in.
Exactly, right? And that
so I probably would want to know.
So again, I think like the closer it gets to evidently, like for instance, what's super clear, someone has a second family and kids and is hiding all that. All right, well that's like dang near crystal clear. Almost anyone would break up for that, right? The closer you get to that line, I feel like is the closer you decide to get the person to tell.
Your friend calls his girlfriend a witch.
Yep.
Right? Do you go to the girlfriend?
I don't know.
Would you? All right. And you know,
I think the first time I'd just be like, dude,
that's whack. You shouldn't say that about your girlfriend.
What are you?
And then the second time you were like, if you say that again, I'm telling.
When you put it like that, it sounds terrible. I don't know. Like again, it is. That's where I think it's the. That's why I feel like that rule generally kind of holds up because it's like, again, like the OnlyPans like cheating is, I would say most of us can agree, is probably closer to that line of like, oh, break the relationship than calling someone a witch or a bad name once or twice, right?
Agreed.
I
hope you guys like my hypotheticals there, but I would love to know what you guys would do. But we do have a little bit more to this story. Ooh. So Two Random Guy says, with all you said, you still haven't acknowledged the fact that your sister-in-law might see what your brother has done as cheating. Just because you see nothing wrong with it doesn't apply to your sister-in-law. You're a hypocrite and have given us the wrong impression. You lead us to believe that you're ending your relationship was due to Sarah bad-mouthing Marty and covering up the cheating. You implied the cheating was 6 months, and you needed to tell Marty. OP responds, because it's immaterial, I can only make decisions based on what I think and know, and I didn't know what Karen had thought about this. It's speculative. It's a poor line of reasoning for making an important decision, so I chose simply to kick the can down the road until I had more information. This is exactly what I do in my day job. I don't make conclusions based on speculations because they don't hold up in court. That is I hate that answer.
Like, bro, he's like, I didn't do it because I don't know what she thinks. Exactly. You don't know what she thinks.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. That last one definitely gave me a big vibe, big bad vibe.
Yeah.
Big bad vibe. But that's where that story ends.
Yep. I do have something to say. But I don't know.
Do it.
Can I
say it? Say it.
There is more. Yeah. I just looked at the guy's profile. We did not check his things, but we have one more like part we could do, maybe two.
Wow. Well, if you guys want another part, let us know in the comments below. But we might do another one.
Comment below. Light it up, baby. If you want a part 4.
But I think that's where this episode ends.
That's finito.
If you love us, make sure to subscribe.
We love you. And see you tomorrow.